Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube video. Okay, so today, kind of a tutorial one. We're going to be building some shocks. Yay! We're going to be building some shocks for the Cross RC JT4. Illustrated, literally, here. So, first things first, turn your manual to the shocks page, because looking at the wheels page won't help. So, I have everything in front of me that we need to build the shocks. Okay, we have a set of pliers, we have a hex driver, we have the rod ends and ball ends bag, the and all the shock bags essentially, springs, shafts, rings, and the main bodies and such for the shocks. What we're going to do is we're going to jump to the old close-up cam, and we're going to build one of these shocks, fill it with oil, and get it all schmicky mouse. I'll do the rest off camera. We're not going to build them all in this video. It'll take forever. Now, first things first, what I do recommend is you have yourself a little tray. Okay? A little tray that you can put your bolts in. I can ignore these. They're all the same size. I know where they go on the truck. So, I'm going to put in first my shafts and my little devil clips. I call these things devil clips because they must have been designed by the devil, because the correct application of power with your tools or fingers, and these horrible little things will vanish into the nether realm. So, I'm going to ever so carefully make sure I get all of these out of the bag, because if you lose one, you're in the McPoo. Okay? Lovely. Put my suspect looking bag off to the side. So, first things first. Now, I'll build a lot of these shocks, so usually I can just build them without even looking at the book, but there'd be no point in me saying to you guys, you need to do it by the book if I don't at least look at it. Okay, so, first things first, we're going to take one of our little devil clips and pop it on the bottom piece here, right? So there's two rings on our shock shaft. You see those two rings just there and there, okay? So we're going to put our bottom devil clip on first. I'm sure you guys can come up with your own fun names. Now, to make these things easy, what I'm going to do is pinch it like this. Hopefully I can get this to kind of focus. It's a bit funny making these. There we go. Pinch it just like this. Okay? This way. There we go. So I can grab my pliers and pinch straight down over the top. Click. Now that is on the shock shaft. Okay? Beautiful. Next stage, we're going to need one of our plungers. I will show you what the plunger looks like. Right here. That is one of the plungers. So we want to take our shaft that we've already put our clip on, and then put our plunger on it. Lovely. Then we're going to take another one of these C-clips. Set that just over the top. Like yay. And we're going to do the same trick. We're just going to almost sort of pinch that slightly with our thumb and finger, so that I can take the end of my little pliers here and just pinch that shut. Perfect. So, that way you can pinch your clip shut. Everything lines up. That's one done. Now, I've got 3 more of these to do that I'm going to do in fast forward, and then we'll jump to the next stage. Okay, so now we have our 4 little shafts beautifully done, ready to go. Looking at your instructions, this is where you're going to open up the bag here of your main body pieces and such for the shocks. So we'll do that. Right. First things first, with your shock shaft, you're going to take your top retainer, wind that onto the shaft, like yay. I'm going to do that 3 more times, real quick like. So nice. So we have that all set. Now our next stage, we're going to take our shock shaft, pop it inside, all the way to the bottom. Okay, we're going to repeat that on all of these. All the way to the bottom, all the way to the bottom. Lovely. All the way to the bottom. Now, looking at the instruction manual, you can see here the order in which we have to put a certain piece of plastic. So a little retainer goes in, 2 rings, a retainer, our end cap, then another ring, then the rod end. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. Real quick like. So, there's 2 different retainer sizes for the shocks. There's a big and a small. This one is the first one we're using. That goes up towards the upper end of the shock. The big one goes towards the lower, if I remember correctly. I believe it does. Okay. Yes. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I'm going to take my shock shaft, put my retainer on this way, so the smaller little part faces downwards. Okay, that's going to go on. Then we're going to put 2 of these seals on. Now, what I do is take my shock oil, so I'm using the Shock 30 weight oil. I'm going to put just a couple of drops on these seals. Just like so. Perfect. Then I'll push all of these up into the base of the shock. So you can see now they're hiding away in here. I wish this would focus better, but there we go. So they're in there. Now we're going to take our large retainer, slide that down. You can see once you push that in, everything sits nice and flush. Perfect. Then we take our end cap. End cap goes on. Nice and tight. It's very important that that's tight. That is already moving nice and smooth. Now the reason we put the oil in where the seals are is so everything can slide, rotate nice and freely. If you don't oil it, everything will feel a lot stiffer, and you don't want that. Once you oil the shock, the idea is to not let a whole lot of oil get down through those rings, otherwise it'll leak. If you build these correctly, as we're doing here, they won't leak. So now we need to pop on one more ring. This is essentially a bump stop. Okay, then we're going to take one of our rod ends. I've built a lot of these shocks. A lot. Now, if I can find my knife, top tip for free. This knife will have to do. Right in the end here, you can actually take a knife, just ever so slightly take a little piece off. And I mean just a little bit. The reason we do this is it makes it a lot easier to get the thread started on the rod end. I say that, now it probably won't start. Oh, there we go. So, that started already, nice and easy. The next step, look here, I should have, there we go, a bit better size pliers. Okay, so we'll hold that. We'll now wind this up all the way till we get to the end of the thread. Perfect. Beautiful. Now, of course, this will require a ball end. There's a few different ways of putting your ball end in. Pliers, press it against the bench, a vise, all those sorts of things. I've always used pliers, that's just me. I will pinch the ball end like so. Okay? Now with a little bit of pressure, a little rotate of the rod end, and it just pops on. Just like that. Now, we're getting to the fun parts now. We're going to slide up our little stopper, grab one of our spring retainers. Make sure there's no little plastic dags. Lovely. Now we're going to grab one of our springs. Perfect. Now, this is a dual rate spring. You can see there's more coils here, less coils here. Essentially, put your finer amount of coils at the top, your lower amount at the bottom. Now, pop our little retainer in there. And for the most part, our shock is built. Okay? Already moving nice and smooth. Come on, camera. You've got one job. There we go. So, looking really nice. Now, time for oil. Okay? I'm going to fill this shock just over half to start with. It's a little bit hard to see. It's very hard for me to do this and show you at the same time. Okay. So, I've now just over half filled my shock. Oh, I wish I had focus better. Anyway, the focus is not as important as the process. So, the shock's half filled. Now, I'll sit there for a little bit. Slowly work the full length of the shock to let the oil seep in through to everything. I'll remove this. Okay, so we're just going to all the way down. Let it settle for a second. All the way back up. All the way down. Let it settle. All the way back up. Now, something you will notice, I don't know how well you'll see this because focus things. On top of the oil, there's little air bubbles, okay? Ideally, especially if you're going to fill your shock completely, ideally, you will want to get rid of all of those air bubbles. Because we're not going to completely fill the shock, it's not 100% important. You can get away with having some air bubbles in there. So now that I've got that to a point where, even now, a little tap on the desk will get rid of a lot of the air bubbles. You can also give the shock a tap. There's actually like 2 bubbles left. There you go. No air bubbles. That simple. So we've gotten rid of those. I'm going to pop a little bit more oil in. Perfect. Now, I've gone to just the bottom of the thread. Okay? This is where we start to adjust our shock and how we want it to work. We're going to take our shock top, illustrate it here. Okay? There is a little O-ring that goes on this. Always put this on first. And a very important step is about to come up. So please don't miss it. I'll know if you do. So, that's got our little seal on the shock top. We're going to lower the spring so I can actually grab the housing of the shock itself and do up our top. Now, when you get to this point, you can see, we can still just see the actual seal. This is where you need to very carefully do it up. Make sure that the seal isn't pinching anywhere. If the seal pinches, the shock won't work properly. Perfect. Perfect seal. Now, give it a test. To me, at the very base, that feels a touch hard. So what I'll do is, I'll loosen off the top, just a few turns. Then I'm going to compress the shock fully, hold it, then slowly bring it back out again. I'm going to do this a few times. Now you'll see, this is why I do it. We've pushed a little bit of oil out, okay? Excuse the camera shake. We've pushed a little bit of oil out. That's fine. I'm going to do it again. hold it. Something you can do is grab your rag, wipe away the excess. That way you can see how much oil is actually still coming out. Go back up. Now what I'm going to do is grab it again, loosen it slightly so my seal goes back to sitting inside. Nice and slow. Do it up. Make sure the seal is inside the shock and it's not being pinched by the top. Now, my shock is perfect. Perfectly smooth. It's not too heavy. I can, of course, and I suggest people do this with crawlers, always pretty much, unless they're really heavy hard bodies. Wind it all the way to the top. You want nice, soft suspension in your crawlers. Perfect. That is how you build a shock absorber. Whether it's a Cross RC or a different one, the only real thing that'll be different is the setup in the middle here. Other than that, that's how you build a shock. So, hopefully, this helps some of you guys. Next up, I'm going to film beadlocks. Fun with beadlocks. There's not going to be much fun. Beadlocks can be a pain. So, I'm going to film some of the little tips and tricks I've got to make installing beadlocks easier for you guys. Do me a favour, smash subscribe, smash follow, smash the like button, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Do take care, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video.